here. Michael Fritz is not here. He's in the hospital. Greg Zawal's here. Allison's here. Derek's here. Dave Eggert's here. Steve Geibel's here. Corey Zana, the mayor's here. Pamela Stevens is here. Amanda's here. The Reverend is here. Warren's here. Joan is here. Minutes, before you see the council minutes meetings from March 20th, 2025. Are there any corrections, clarifications, additions? Can the minutes be accepted as presented?
Motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Approval of payment of bills. Before you will see consolidated payment of bills from the general fund. Total bills is $106,965.20. Sewer fund is $54,767.27. Liquid fuels is $1,042.80. From fire tax fund, you will see $8,000. EMS tax fund, $13,000. Is there any questions about the consolidated payment of bills? Can they be paid as presented?
Motion to approve the payment of bills as presented.
Second.
Motion been moved and seconded to pay the bills as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Approval of treasurer's report. What we're looking for is a fund balances as of March 31st. From general fund, you'll see $200,164.61. Liquid fuels, $160,019.99. Fire tax fund, $10,726.07. EMS tax fund, $6,866.65. Sewer fund, $246,800.34. Reserve account, $206,173.59 for a total fund balance of $830,751.25. Is there a motion to accept, file for audit, the consolidated treasury report as of March 25?
So moved.
Second.
Motion moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Are you here for any comment tonight?
No,
Just
I would say.
our pleasure. Consultant's report. Engineer, or do you want the solicitor to go? You ready to go? You're up.
Okay, there's hardly anything to talk about.
Well, there's always something to talk about.
Yes, well, we're gonna be calling Allison and Amanda to pick up the fund and schedule the audit this month, as promised. So you'll be hearing from a representative from SD, and then start scheduling that. So that's for the water grant. Oh no, I want to skip. Amanda, you had verified with me about the floodplain ordinance. Can you expand on where you're submitting that?
So it got submitted to Cody Hoffman. I sent it to him, he reviewed it, sent it back today with all of the corrections that need to be done on it. And I emailed it back to you. There's not too many, a couple of corrections parts that we thought we could take out, like some of the variances and stuff, to send it to FEMA, and he said absolutely not. It is up to the borough to decide whether people would like variances, or we have to decide about their variances.
We said no. We said no.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
We have to put it in.
So the upshot of this is, we're gonna have to bring back into our ordinance the things that we had taken out. Yeah, I don't know if the planning commission wants to see it again, or, prior to that.
The planning commission, if it's in the zoning ordinance, which the floodplain ordinance generally is, because the zoning hearing board sits as a floodplain appeals.
Okay.
Yeah, it should go to the planning commission.
We were gonna
because-
put it
You wanna
back
go
together. We
this
were gonna
month?
put it back together
Right.
because all of the parts are part of the model ordinance, which we already looked at.
Right, and FEMA.
So
requires-
we have to put those parts back in. He told us which parts.
But what it frustrates me is you had talked to a FEMA representative and they said you can take the variances out.
Well,
You got all that
apparently,
documentation, remember?
yeah,
So
nobody.
you said that to
Feds
me.
and the state are not on the same
Yeah,
page.
apparently.
Okay.
The question becomes, Joan, in it, they said zoning hearing board or Commonwealth Court. Can we force it to Commonwealth Court right away?
Well, I mean, what generally happens is that the Commonwealth Court is the second step after the zoning hearing board. Generally, the Commonwealth Court is first impression when it's a state agency. If there were an appeal from FEMA, that would go to the Commonwealth Court. So So I believe that the appeals should first go to the zoning hearing board, then to Court of Common Pleas, then to the Commonwealth
Can't we
Court.
claim an undue burden on the taxpayers of the municipality for having to have a zoning hearing board and have a solicitor and pay for all the stuff that has to go for the technical nature of a floodplain, the whole floodplain?
Unfortunately, the MPC, in my opinion, is not waivable. Now, you can ask for FEMA's opinion on that, if there are other municipalities that have successfully put the First Avenue of appeal to the Commonwealth Court, but I am not aware of any procedure in the judicial code, other than with the state agency, that will allow it to go to Commonwealth Court first for a hearing. Usually be on appeal, because the floodplain ordinance is a part of the zoning ordinance. And really, I agree that the review is a very technical review, because there has to be a showing with a variance that the structure isn't going to raise the base flood elevation more than 12 inches, either cumulatively with other development or on its own over 10 years. It's not easy. I've done these floodplain variances for clients in the city, and appeared in front of the zoning hearing board for clients in the city with those, and I understand how technical it is, and how you have to show flood proofing, how an applicant would have to show flood proofing, and how that would have to be evaluated by engineers. But I don't think there's anything in the procedure that would allow an appeal at the first level to the Commonwealth Court.
Is it possible to get that all put back in for the planning commission to see it this month? Amanda?
Yeah, I'll have it done.
So you want me this month?
You gonna be ready, you think?
Well, and
It
it'll be
depends on everyone
ready, it
else's
just
schedule.
is, we haven't,
We have a
haven't
meeting
had a
technically,
meeting.
right, we'd have to notify the members.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we can do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't be there, I have a conflict, but I can send somebody else.
All right. We also put on the planning commission's agenda also, if we get into that situation, we should probably ask a recommendation from the planning commission that we up our application for review of a floodplain ordinance variance. It's gonna take a lot more engineering time and maybe solicitor effort, and maybe that'll be a drawdown fund starting maybe around $4,000 or $5,000. Because I know you have to go over those pretty detailed.
Would it be more beneficial to push it into May so that Pamela can be there?
It's up to you two.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine with me, that's May's.
There's no immediate rush.
No,
No.
there's no timeline on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
move it in May.
The other thing I wanna ask Joan about, and for your benefit, we have other ordinances that carry the variance sections, but then they say no variances will be considered, period. And they're very clear, no variances will be considered.
Can we do that?
So you're asking that for the stormwater, for floodplain?
Yes. We put
That's a
all the
legal
variance
question.
sections back, well, that's why I'm asking it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a difficult question, because
That's why
by
I'm
not
asking
allowing,
you.
by not allowing the use, you're already saying that it is not a permitted use.
Listen, it's gonna be a really high bar to get a variance around the floodplain.
Right.
So let them go, it makes no sense for us to put no variances will be
Yeah, I-
issued.
I-
Let them come in and try to make that burden of proof.
Right.
And I think the bar is so high, you're gonna have almost the same
The
event.
bar is very high,
Yeah.
and FEMA sets the bar very high for a reason. I would use that, I would let the federal standard preempt in this case, and use the federal standard and make the applicant meet the burden of proof, not only of the hardship, but that it will meet those standards as far as not raising base flood elevation or causing any hazard or danger to the surrounding community by allowing it to flood.
And more,
But then the zoning hearing board members need a primer
Well,
on,
I was gonna say,
floodplain
we
information.
will populate that meeting when it needs to come.
He said about recreational
Yeah.
vehicles, because it says we prohibit recreational vehicles, but he suggests that consulting the solicitor to confirm that it's legal if we prohibit.
They're chemicals, why
I
wouldn't we?
recommend hearing in state model ordinance, prohibit recreational vehicles.
That's what we do.
Meaning-
But he's saying that we shouldn't.
Okay, I suggest.
We're not gonna listen to his advice.
Okay,
the variance stuff.
If
like I did
approved,
the other stuff.
adjustments to
Yeah.
this section as the current phrasing is unclear.
There's a lot of historic, in other states where people have things close to the creek,
Right.
trucks, cars, etc., that when the big storm comes, washes them underneath a bridge, causes the big pile up of water behind it till that bridge fails, and then more people get wiped
I
out.
mean, there are reasons that not to have, for example, RV facilities in a
You
floodplain.
get that.
As far as can someone park their RV in a floodplain,
No, I think we'll just prohibit
I
that.
would, yeah, I don't have any problem prohibiting that because of the permanency of some RVs. Some
Yeah.
RVs are simply campers, but some RVs are actual park model, there's an RV under there somewhere because of all the add-ons.
One,
and-
you know,
I thought we also, with the old Wolf Bleach and Dye, one of the problems was when they wanted to put apartments in there, they couldn't have a parking lot because they
They
couldn't,
couldn't have cars there.
they couldn't have
No.
cars sitting there even overnight,
Yeah, I
much
have,
less.
yeah, I have no problem saying recreational vehicles, because I think there's a justification there, not just of hazards to property, but also sometimes people occupy recreational vehicles longer than they should, we know that.
Warren, would you also make sure
Housing.
in the ordinance that they have a new survey, topo survey, like 1 foot contours within the last 12 months of their application?
Actually, not live.
Yeah, actual survey tied in with the, you know, with
Floodplain
a,
elevations.
with a floodplain, known floodplain monument, because that'll solve a lot of issues with that requirement right there. Because topo maps are notoriously inaccurate.
And we made the, I forget the person's name, RQ.
But you see what I'm getting
Well,
at?
we never
So
got this.
so they have to get a-
They have to have,
survey.
as part of their variance,
I don't know
we
if
want
we-
them to have a survey, topo
We
survey,
never saw
professional
it.
surveyor,
'Cause we
1
have
foot
no idea what this
contours
property was.
tied into a known elevation, like at the post office, they usually have
Okay.
an elevation,
They were
you know,
supposed to
a
do
USGS
both
known
because
elevation.
with the amount of
So-
erosion on the creek.
But that'll save probably a lot of issues for
and
us,
we dumped
to
it
have that.
along the creek.
because that'll be our first argument if they come in with just a topo map.
So we need
You know,
to.
'cause it won't be
do
accurate.
enforcement.
All right,
Allison, I'm sorry, were you talking about Wolf Bleach and Dye for the dumping?
No.
Is that what you were telling her? Okay, so I couldn't hear. Because there's dumping down there,
Across.
bricks, concrete,
Yeah.
all the way down
Okay.
through and around.
another complaint of
And
it.
it's current, it's active.
Okay, and I'll speak, I've been speaking with the owner as recently as today. I spoke with the owner.
Maybe he's telling people, hey, bring it from my other places and dump it here. But it's real close to the creek.
I have no idea whether, whether he's telling people to do it or
Right.
whether it's being
We don't
done
know
in
who it
an
is.
unauthorized way. Dumping sometimes is unauthorized. They see a seemingly vacant property.
Mhm.
Now, I understand from talking to the owner that he's put up a gate and has boarded up some of the windows.
No,
No,
Has not happened?
I was there yesterday, no.
Okay, I'd like the code.
I got pictures.
Okay, if you have pictures, would you
Mhm.
please send them to me, because then I need to have a further talk with the owner about it.
Mhm.
At what point can we go on the property to take pictures to see progress?
Well, I mean, first of all, you can do so.
for any code enforcement.
With permission. I mean,
On the initial, you can.
my view of that is that you either get consent or get an administrative warrant, and I think you give grounds for administrative warrant.
Or we'll call the police and say, would you come with us, because we think there's some suspicious activity there, and accompany the policeman on the property.
Yeah, I mean, right, because there has been suspicious activity there.
And then you can take whatever pictures you want,
Right,
Mhm.
and get the police there, and
There
then
were
that gives
just,
us access.
I just got notice there were younger kids on the roof playing like an airsoft on the roof of the.
right, and that's a serious matter. Let me see the
Yeah.
pictures. I mean, if the pictures were taken, it's not something I'm gonna go use in a proceeding, but I would like to have them, and I would like to be able to
To look
speak
for
to
you.
you.
I can tell you from the road, you can see the windows have not been boarded.
If it's, right, if it's plain view
Yeah.
from public property or neighbor's property with consent, you can take photographs from there and use them.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Pam.
I stood on the road.
Okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
Okay, so I give you the update on the floodplain, thank you, Amanda, and, Warren very look forward to resolving this hiccup. Okay. The more than I give you the update, where are we at there with the garage, are we moving anywhere?
Well, I guess we'll dig into that right now.
Please look at the closest monitor to you where you're located.
So Bob had instructed me,
Well, that's a Ward's dog taking a dump up in our
No, sniffing. That would not be her position, her tail would be.
bear with me, I have to get all the way to the end. So Bob had instructed about us using, actually Allison as well, had instructed about us using the back side of the building, which
To avoid all easements on our property.
yeah, up in the upper left-hand corner of that, there's the area behind the rear door, which would be on that side of the building. So that is the orchestrated picture, that is the original photo we had about trying to shoehorn the other building in.
So you see two rectangles there. The one actually has like 3 vehicle spaces apart.
Like that.
And then the other one, you could park vehicles if you wanted to stack them.
And you would be avoiding.
It would be avoiding all pole removals, all easements, all everything.
So you got my memo then about my discussion with Med Ed and what the cost, they could move
Well,
poles,
yeah.
what the costs might look like.
So that's one compliant location on the current property.
And say that's the showing of how the vehicles would line in the garage with space in between. You could jam 3 in, but you could put the 3 in like that with no issue. The sizing of it to 40 by 34.
How does that one get in there then?
So you can as you can see the truck's back there now, you can come in and navigate in. Like you can come in and peel or make a turn in, yeah. So you can swing in and park. You won't be able to get all the way in that back corner, but you can pull. You won't be able to get that tucked in vehicle out. So like if it was a vehicle, like the big dump truck, we don't need it every day. It'll just be in there until we have to pull the other vehicles out. That would be the lineup of that in there.
Okay. So there'd be just the one door there?
Yeah, out
For
the
in
front.
and out?
Out the front.
Out the front. So if you want one of those back ones, you have to take the first one out and all that sort of, yeah, okay.
That's beyond door number 1. What's door number 2?
I think that was the only thing we talked about for this here. The other
Right.
option was down at Lynn Avenue, which I'm not sure if we had any update on the open area, but we have figured out that area was deeded to us from Verino as open space, which legally binds us to leaving it as open space unless it's recreational use from what I
Well, does it or
understand.
doesn't?
Right, yeah,
You put a pickleball court
yeah,
Attached to a building.
yeah.
on the roof.
What you have to do, if it was deeded, if it was gifted or deeded to the borough as open space, you'd have to.
Well, wait a second. He was forced into having so much open space under our zoning regulations.
Right.
So the idea is he would have built more buildings there if he didn't have to have an open space.
That
So-
doesn't matter.
Yeah, so my point being is that's what the intent of the open space is, an open area that people can walk, or there's a retention basin or water or something there. So it would be, in my opinion, you really can't build a building in an open space.
Right, yeah, it would have to go to court with a petition under Donated and Dedicated Property Act, with a petition, a hearing in front of the court, an advertisement, in the law journal and in the newspaper, in 3 separate weeks, so it's expensive when you get into law journal and newspaper advertising. And, notice to the Attorney General, who generally goes along with those petitions, to have that
Yeah,
removed.
so it's not a real practical.
It can be, I've used it, I've been to court on a couple of occasions for donated and dedicated property, but it's an expensive process, it's not even difficult. It's
But the
expensive.
first question they ask you is, what's your hardship? Could you build somewhere else? Oh yeah, we have another parcel here, we have another parcel here, we have another parcel here, we just don't like those.
If we knew this,
Yeah.
and you apparently know of this, why didn't we spend time having us look at doing that?
When
down in
we
Avenue?
finally talked about Lynn Avenues, this is when we were talking about Penn.
Yes.
And we were just floating ideas at that point, because the prime location, they told us we weren't gonna build there, when we were aligned with Mount Penn, when I went to talk to NT Municipal. So that become like, well, here's another piece of property, you want it over there? They said no, so that got pushed off the table. That never really got delved in any type of, review. It was just an offering. So,
Well, that was our plan to use that money.
yep, but we would have stopped ourselves before we got there too.
Yeah.
Any other ones? Just, this is it then?
My only suggestion here, and this is just, spitballing stuff, so there are two rectangles here showing like the total dimensions that you'd be able to fit something in there. If we wanted to just put one in to have the two spaces, because we are putting storage space up the top of Adams with covered storage in the eventual, once you have the two shipping containers, you can make coverage between. We could use that as long-term storage as well, so we may not necessarily need this other space if we're gonna use a long-term storage up there. We just need to leave a vehicle outside, you know, stuff like that.
Can
To be
you
just the
say
back
two
door,
stories?
temporary.
Is that gonna be 2 stories?
Right at the top, no, it'd be two container space between, and then you would just,
Oh, like a ship?
and then you like, yeah, you can cover,
Oh.
put a roof in between, over the, in between area. Cause I don't know what the cost would be if we're trying to make an odd shape like this versus just putting a square in for now and then we extend down the road. And that's something we have to explore
So just put the larger one in and not have that little.
for now, and then there's nothing that says we couldn't do.
Right.
If the price comes in no different, then there's no sense in waiting.
I've worked before, tried to put a building attached to another building. You're gonna eat a lot of structural engineer time up if you do that.
Oh,
If
that's-
you can build a building adjacent to your building, even if the roof overhangs, you're much better off than tying them together.
That is one thing with this, and that's a suggestion from Bob, and Pamela might be able to back this up. That's why this is not attached to this building. We have a corridor that spaces all those buildings through there. So it's like a gangway that you can just walk between the buildings, but they're not attached to this building. I don't think we confirmed that or not.
You're undercover, but it's not attached, so you
Yeah.
have,
Right.
you have a roof line eave that.
Yeah, you can make your eve extend further out, you know, so you won't get wet walking from one to the other.
Well,
So-
also, snow doesn't fall.
The little square there in between the 2 buildings, is that an air conditioner unit?
No, that's the back door pad, so this is the
Oh,
rear.
the back door,
door.
okay.
This is, there's the air conditioning units in
Oh,
here,
there, that's right, there.
and there's one here, but tucked against that side.
Well, that's why you moved the dumpsters out, weren't the dumpsters, before we looked at this, weren't the dumpsters originally in the back, and it was the previous owner?
I'm not sure where the dumpsters were originally.
Now they're out, I see they're out in the parking
I
lot.
don't think they had dumpsters before, they just had, they had a bunch of trash cans back there, they didn't have.
Oh.
I wouldn't trust the garbage truck to run in there and back out behind that building every week, you know.
So those are options on the table right now. We don't have any firm pricing for what this would cost. Options right now would be putting that in, putting in a pavilion style thing and then just filling in the sides with, I mean, kind of like this, I guess. That one's the next one. Or we could end up with the solid, that's it. Come along. So, you say cost by not filling in, or you fill in space and completely seal it?
So now this sort of takes, if you do something like that on this property, now you take away the washroom, the restroom, everything, because you know,
It's just a garage.
so now we're in a garage.
Right, no, we're in a garage.
The other thing I like about this is then where you were gonna propose your original garage for that, just pave it, put your parking spaces you need, max out your parking spaces.
We would put pavers in so we wouldn't get in stormwater issues. We could put permanent pavers.
Exactly,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, provide that as the.
yeah.
As planned.
Or it could be employee parking or something, you know. Anyone's general thoughts or not thoughts, you know? It sort of saves money on not moving utilities. There's no value in doing that unless you're,
There, it would blend in with the building, be the same color scheme, right? It wouldn't be red.
Yeah.
Just had to ask.
It's hidden in the back,
To
you
be
wouldn't
sure.
see it.
farm red.
Fluorescent pink.
That's a better color, I like that.
And how about a cupola with the pigs? Big fly, yeah.
So we just thought to bring that up, maybe try to go with the 2 options and get some maybe better, see about submitting actual pricing. Ask them, hey, give us a price for this.
For
One and the
instance,
second
and
one.
that didn't make it on here, because it must not have transferred, but just a square building like that in the back, just a metal square structure was, I think, 46,000 built. And that's just for a bare bones erected building,
Right.
nothing else in it. Versus, I don't know how much more would be to add,
No heat, just.
no
like
heat, yeah,
rain.
yeah. Bare bones, that's just like
Electric
building.
for the doors.
I think it was a chain voice door, so you didn't necessarily necessarily need electric, but you could add that down the line.
So you just keep the equipment out of
Because you're gonna get.
the elements.
Yeah, and then we could eventually add heat in there. I mean, ideally, we want heat in there to keep the vehicles in the wintertime, like we have salt in the back, anything like that will freeze.
Right. But Derek, I would definitely get the pricing for an electric opener immediately, because I remember when we moved into the station up here, before, the electric openers were on back order. And I can remember standing, guys in line, you're hauling on that chain, open that big door for a call. That was brutal. Get the door opener.
So for like our next meeting, we want some numbers just to kick around.
Yeah, I can-
For the big square, then the big and the little square, and just, so we'll think about it.
Let's say we can get firmer numbers from the,
Supplier.
the procurement,
KPN.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are we asking for grant at all?
Hell no,
For the
we're rich.
garage? I have plans for that money.
$60,000 isn't really the sort of our grant type of range. It'll cost us that much in engineering and attorney fees, probably doesn't fill it in, so. Thank you.
Are we gonna do the site?
Anything else?
You want those?
No, yeah.
So the meta easement issue is.
Let's table that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say the interior is still to be determined whether, how much you want mechanical or electrical.
Right.
And of course, you just put natural gas into the facility into here.
Yeah.
So the heating could be natural gas.
Did we give official notice to UGI for natural gas?
That's, in my report, I did report to UGI the usage numbers estimated from us from the contract, or the contractor estimate for all the burners in here, and an estimated size for a generator. And I also put in the line for a main extension on an application. I haven't heard back from them, so.
All right.
So the property on Lynn Avenue is dead.
Well, not surface right now, below grade.
Table it. All right, and then the illicit discharge research was the last thing on my report that I wanted to discuss with everybody. I attached a couple pages from the ordinance.
Now, we have an illicit discharge ordinance because we did have an MS4 permit. And then we not violently, but we valiantly got out of that permit. But there was a big fear that they were gonna suck us right back in. So we never rescinded that stormwater ordinance, so we still have this illicit. So we have all the conditions as if we had a permit, we just don't have a permit in hand. Does that make any sense? Or is it just too confusing? But you understand, we got everybody on board, don't wash your car with soap out in the street. It made no sense to me to go rescind that, because we felt pretty sure we were gonna get hit with that permit, and I'm still would not bet against that. So,
Oh, it's coming. But anyway, what you have in front of you basically says that if it's a swimming pool, it has to be below certain parts per million for your chlorine. Well, it was December. More than likely, the chlorine was gone. However, when you look at the crown or lack of crown on North Main, there's no storm swale, there's no shoulder, so they basically just discharge it fast, screaming down their driveway, shooting onto North Main. The crown is, of course, from his side of the road towards the creek. So it just then turned into sheet flow. Even if they put it on the opposite side of their house, it probably would have ended up the same way, a sheet flow. Possibly could have absorbed some of it in the grass, but to send it straight down the driveway was just irresponsible. Whether or
Cite
not
'em.
we can cite them?
yeah, absolutely.
No, but not for the illicit discharge.
Why can't you not cite them for illicit discharge?
Because they're permitted to discharge,
Not if it has chlorine in it.
correct, but it's December.
Do we know it was the pool?
Yes.
Well, how do we know it was the pool?
They said, I think
That's
the
in,
police
that's in the police report that it
Yeah.
says it came from the pool.
I don't think that.
Yeah, but if it's in December, it could be a covered pool with
It's,
the
The
top.
proof would be on them that they didn't have chlorine in it. We don't have to prove
Right.
that there was no chlorine.
They could be notified that if they do this, yeah. they
I
can
say
be
cite them
notified.
anyway.
Now, that's the code officers to cite.
Any other comments?
So, the
there's a high chance that nothing was learned from that,
Correct.
unless we have some sort of response back to them. And
Correct.
certainly you might as well bring up the chlorine issue, because I doubt that they even thought of that. And they'll know all these things once they get cited.
Does a simple chlorine test that?
No, you have to dechlorinate it.
Yeah, I know, but,
Yeah.
I assume the pool owners have a chlorine test to determine when they have to add chlorine.
And
So
vice
if it
versa.
gets, do you have any idea would that tell them when it gets low enough that they could
Oh, yeah.
allow it to?
Yeah.
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 So that's something they can do themselves.
I have a
So
set
you
of,
know, oh, you
it's a
understand.
little dip.
There was a
Test for
chlorine.
chlorine, hardness,
Yeah,
pH,
no, it's
and you dip it, and you change
Yeah,
the color.
I've just never done it to see whether it gives you any feeling for what the level is.
Here's a test strip. You wave it in the air, no chlorine, that won't work. You know,
And it's not
you-
an NOV, it's just.
almost every field test for any permit in the United States now requires a certified person to do that test, either from a lab or the company itself has to be a certified lab to do a field test just for pH. So to take a chlorine test, it's gonna have to be a little bit more sophisticated than the Home Depot chlorine test. So I think that should be our position, my position.
Yeah, but
It's-
that's not in your ordinance.
I know, the ordinance, we can determine what the level of proof is. They need to come in and tell us this.
Well, bottom line, I think, they need to discharge it to the grass, first of all.
Well, they get put on notice.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I went to the police about the situation under the guidance of our president here. And the chief, from their viewpoint, the man started draining the pool earlier in the day. And he did discharge it the correct way onto the grass. I guess as it started going, they left the house because I guess the pool had emptied. They left the house, and I guess with it getting colder, the water did not soak into the ground. It just made its way down to the street. So the police determined there was no intent, and that's why they did not ticket them.
But if it was on the grass first, the driveway's on the left-hand side, the grass lawn, long stretch is on the right-hand side.
Well, they said they were doing it into the grass, not the driveway.
Maybe a strip of grass before the driveway.
That's what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
that's what it sounds
The tiny strip of grass before the driveway.
I just wanted to let you know why the police did not give
Well,
them a
then
fine.
I'll call it the NOV, state you must do it, if you have to absolutely do it, test it, have proof of the test, then it has to be discharged to the grass.
They wouldn't even needed to discharge it. With it freezing, it's not gonna blow their pool out.
So why were they doing that?
Who knows?
Was there a leak or anything in the pool?
Well, if there was a leak, it was a slow leak and it
It's the
wouldn't,
same, right.
yeah. It would be better if they just left it leak.
It's an above ground. right?
Cite them, and I'm sure they'll be in here complaining, so we'll hear more about it later.
All right, so I'm gonna work with Allison on the illicit discharge, and that's it for my report.
Solicitor, you're up.
Okay, most of what I would have covered was covered under the engineer's report. The only item I have is something that's already been authorized, so no motion is needed, and that is the, amendment to the amendment, to the Berks Nature Agreement. Last month you had signed the first amended and restated grant of conservation easement and declaration of covenants, and that was also signed by Berks Nature previously. And if we didn't last month, I'm not sure whether we did or not, our amendment needs to be signed. One, motorized vehicles and the like. So if it hasn't been signed, it needs to be, and then we can record it.
I don't have it, Allison.
Yeah, no, I give a
I'm pretty
copy.
sure we have to find it, pretty sure we did sign it.
That's what I thought.
I think
I
so
signed it
too,
also.
so just check, yeah.
That I have to look.
So just check last
All right.
month's record, and that way I can get it over to Berks Nature, they can sign off on it, and then we can get it recorded. Because everything's ready to go, otherwise. And unless anyone has any questions, that's all I have, as I said, most of it was covered, most of what I was going to cover was already
Thanks, Joan. Borough Mayor.
Okay, I attended the police commission meeting on April 3rd. They're starting the process of choosing a new police chief. They would like to hire from within, so then at that point, there's going to be a need to replace a sergeant and an officer. There was a grant received for 2 new patrol cars and the uplifting of the crime scene truck, and they're going to purchase 1 vehicle out of their budget. That was about it. It was real quick.
Sounds good. More department staff reports, financing report. Zoning, local code enforcement, we talked about some code things down at our subject one property and the discharging of pool water. Public safety, emergency management, anything?
Yeah, received a copy of the report, Center for Excellent Local Government and Emergency Medical Provider Initiative, actually happened on October 25th of last year. A number of EMS providers throughout the county participated, and some out of county who have primary coverage in Berks municipalities. A couple things, action items that they came up with. EMS providers would be compelled to utilize GIS-based dispatching if municipal financing is provided. GIS dispatching would mean, instead of using the base run cards like we use now, closest unit would go. There is what they call a crew force, and it's tablet-based. And we can actually see any units that are logged into that on our mapping at dispatch. It's going to be that's going to be spurred on any wholesale changeover to that. Currently, they can go responding. They can look at all the additional. They never have to contact us by radio. The only thing they have to call in and go to go available, they have to call us on radio. EMS providers should be compelled to share anticipated staffing schedules with adjacent providers to reduce staffing issues out of service units, so surrounding agencies have the opportunity to upstaff to mitigate this shortage. That's an item I'm going to reach out to Lower Alsace on. County and EMS provider work to modify the dispatching model to incorporate primary dispatch of intermediate units, what they call ILS, intermediate life support. That's already in place at Berks. They've changed run card or call type. We have ILS call types available, and there are intermediate units in service throughout the county at any given time. EMS providers meet with the municipalities and service areas to establish an appropriate annual actual subscription rate per household contracted cost. We already have that in place here in St. Lawrence. Reporting issue, and I do see that there's a quarterly report from Lower Alsace in here, so that's in place basically. Agency consolidation. EMS agencies need to develop interagency cooperation agreements to foster better service delivery. That's already in place with a countywide mutual aid agreement. As far as consolidating, with Lower Alsace, it's kind of not feasible due to their geography. They've got the city on one side, which is a fire department-based EMS provider, and then on the other side, they've got a hospital-based Lifeline. So it's kind of not real easy for them to merge with anybody in that case. But the only squad that they really have any chance of merging with would be only EMS. And that's kind of up to them. And that's pretty much about it for out of EMS. So we've got some of the things in place already, so we're kind of ahead of the curve there. Some other things are just going to be up to trying to get more responders certified. There's already, it said in there about training too, and providing training opportunities for emergency medical providers. I think there's a pretty good amount of that available through different avenues here in Berks County.
Public Works.
My report is attached. Couple of big things we touched on. I sent all the numbers to UGI for the main extension, so I'm waiting to hear back from them. We had Birdsboro's bucket truck in here last week, relamped all of Macy Way with LED lights, replaced all the ones that were there dying. Checked that solar light on Orchard Court. That might need a new head. I have to check that again, because that still didn't work. I checked all the batteries, checked the ground So I have to pull that head down and find out what's going on with that. The street light on 23 Poplar Drive does not have power to the conduit, so I have to put a work order into Med Ed to find out if their vault has an issue or if there's a line that's down inside their vault, so they have to get back to me on that. We have street sweeping going on right now with Exeter Township. They're sweeping all of our streets. They just started today. They'll finish tomorrow. Which leads me.
Question about that. In the past, we put signage up,
Yeah.
and, you know, there were a lot of cars parked on our street.
So the way we've done it, and we didn't used to post it all. So the way it's been done for the past couple of years is we'll selectively post, like Elm Street that has a lot of heavy debris on it. That whole street gets posted. And then other streets that like Adams Street, Jacksonville Avenue.
So Walnut, you had some signs up.
Yeah, so anywhere where there's heavy debris, it gets posted there.
There's a case near me where a guy had several cars parked, so they avoided his property. Leaves and everything were underneath. He went with his blower and blew them out, all out into the middle of the street.
When the sweeper was there, or?
You know, after the sweeper had left, he says, you know, the side of my street didn't get clean, so I'm gonna blow it out to the middle of the street.
So do we note from the street sweeper what cars were parked there? And do you ticket them, send them a letter? Hey, we
Only on
came.
streets we post.
Oh, but you didn't post,
It didn't
that's
post.
right, yeah.
It was not posted. In the past, our street was posted.
Well, I thought, street sweeping was to start tomorrow, but I thought, well, you didn't post, that's because it was to start tomorrow. I thought he came today because of the weather.
He started today, and that's another thing too, the weather this week was very unfavorable to, we weren't even sure if we'd sweep today or tomorrow at all. But we had weather today to start, so everything got posted on Wednesday.
Yeah. Another comment about it? When I watched him as he went in front of my house. He went by my house, he kind of looked, he backed up, he went back across it again. He went by almost 3 times to make sure he got it all.
So he's very thorough.
What are you putting out in the street in front of your house?
No, it was all last year's garbage that had lined up there.
You could have blown it out in the middle and you could pick it up.
It must have been, you know, it must have been just, no, I'm not gonna blow it out in the middle. You know, there must have been a lot of grit there or something, and then he went by and saw it. He was very, I'm giving him kudos.
So usually he goes back and forth on leaves a lot. Leaves is the thing that
Yeah.
gets hung up in there.
Right.
So,
Part 2 of that?
yeah, part 2 of this is I had reached out to the state because I've been asked about this before, about the state street sweeping on St. Lawrence Avenue and the Turnpike Road. So I took the prerogative of reaching out to them just to see when their schedule was to keep you updated on that. I received an email back from their assistant highway maintenance manager, and to quote him, he said, "No, we will not be sweeping. The sweeping falls on the borough under the Drainage Act. In simple terms, since the borough owns all the pipes, including the ones on state roads, it falls to the borough to sweep. If you have any questions, let me know."
Is that what you've heard before from PennDOT, Pam?
No. No.
Can you investigate his supervisor and maybe ask for a Zoom meeting with him over this? Which leads into the next question.
We have the option to ask Exeter, which I had everything lined up to have them sweep St. Lawrence Avenue and Old Turnpike Road, since it looks like the state has no initiative to sweep them.
Which would cost us how much more?
I would guess somewhere between 800 and 1,000. But now I will say, he moved much faster this year because this was his second year here, so we're actually ahead of schedule.
So does council want to go ahead and authorize a quick change?
Because you're gonna pay me at least $800 or $1,000 to investigate this.
No, I'm suggesting we should, if we should do this, we're still gonna go back and ask the state where this guy got this idea. But if we have the opportunity now to sweep, we should probably sweep and then fight with the state over, you know, whether they should reimburse, well, you know, because that's like sending us a bill, we're not gonna pay it. You know, if someone sends us a bill. Yeah, but I think we can get $800 worth of beating up his boss
Maybe you get
on
the
that.
point when we send pictures of their employees stuffed
Yeah.
with debris into the storm drain.
Council's thoughts? Spend another 800, get it all clean, get it over with? 8 to 1,000? We need a vote on that? No? Not change order to the sweeping?
There was never an original one, just sweeping, was there?
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, so direct them to sweep.
That is all I have for my report. That's it, exciting.
Any other questions to Roadmaster, Public Works, et cetera? Well, go ahead.
I have a quick question for Derek. We're setting up I think it's advanced rehab, if I get the name correctly, something like that. They do UV light instead of the steam cured, the CIPK, they actually do a UV light that goes in it. We're gonna have a lunch and learn at our office, for our staff. Do you want me to let you know when that is?
Yeah, if you could, I like new technology.
Yeah, so you could either, if we do it via Teams, you could attend the Teams or physically come, and we buy lunch, so.
Can you ask them tomorrow if their liners have any PFAS in them? I'm just asking, because they used to have styrene in them, that was the smell you smelled all the time, and everybody claimed they got sick, from smelling it, so they changed to non-styrene, infused felt, and you get
This
it,
is felt anymore. With the UV, it's a totally different process.
really, it's not a felt, they don't pull felt through there,
It's,
and then use air to blow it out, and then use the UV to come behind it to
the way it
set
was
it.
described to me, how many people have eaten conch or calamari? It's like that gooey, wet, slimy, yeah. And
Then it cures under the light.
Yes, yes. I was trying to think of an analogy, but they described it that it's sort of like that. It's just sort of wet and slimy feeling. Yeah. But I
With
mean,
sparkles in it?
we probably add sparkles, or, when you do the TV down the road.
Was it the Feast of the Seven Fishes you had?
But no, I'm interested, because this is a newer
So
option.
this is the
for
first
us.
time I've heard of this.
Yeah, but what this does is it doesn't require all of the heavy equipment, especially for your remote access, when you're trying to get your machine for the heat and the steam. It's a very small machine in comparison, because it's just,
Yeah.
so that's why when I saw Mr. Rehab, I thought I'd invite you to this lunch and learn, so that we both, can pick up on some new technology.
Okay, I appreciate that.
So you want to explain why the Mr. Rehab is in here?
I figured we get into the resolution since that's a
Okay.
separate thing, council. I don't wanna jump the gun.
All right. Then we'll go to committee meetings. Library, Mike Fritz is not here. Joint Comprehensive Plan, Warren?
Yeah, at the last meeting, you've got a couple of maps in front of you. There are two. One that looks like it's the one that's on the screen there. That is what the county has as our use map.
Okay.
And there's several things that are not quite right with it.
So they're incorrect?
Yeah, there's a lot of.
You're using euphemisms for errors. Is there errors on this county-driven map?
They did make some changes
Yeah.
in that, community church was changed from residential to institutional. The Whitehall property was changed.
So we have to
There
submit
were
our
a number
changes
of
to
things.
them?
So, but then what got me at the meeting this past week was they showed me this other map, which is the next map.
With less red in it, less maroon in it, correct?
And I don't know if you can change it to the next.
Oh,
that's
future
okay,
land.
you did the future map. There are places like where I live, where Allison lives, everybody, where it was originally medium density, they have it as low density. Which requires like an acre of property
Yeah.
or something like that, So it.
So how's the county messing this up so much?
Well, when I asked, who in the world put this map together, they said, well, this was generated by computers, by, I guess, AI, took each information, and so, they realize it is very bad. It's very inaccurate.
Are we going to offer comment to this?
Yes, yeah, that's where I was getting at. Certainly, our existing map needs some modifications. So we should look at our current map, propose what modifications we want to make to that, and submit that to the county to make it as our future
Does the
plan.
county have a public comment period for this, or are they fairly early in the review process?
Well, this is through the joint comprehensive.
Comprehensive plan,
plan.
but it's, well, I mean,
Yeah.
with county assistance.
Yeah, and,
Okay, so there's no formal comment period.
right.
And there's
here's,
we all,
yeah.
we all looked at this and said, wait a minute, this is not,
So there's a plan of action to submit our official zoning map to them,
and then,
to
yeah,
do work on.
We need to make a couple of modifications to it because
And then
it is
submit it
the
to 'em.
it is future use. So there's,
Again,
a
it's,
farm that is listed as.
So when
high
will,
density
when will we have
residential.
our new and improved map ready to submit to the county?
I
Next
guess
next
Allison and I
month?
sat down
Well,
and.
I gave Derek the map today. He needs at least 24 hours.
Did either of you two use AI to generate it?
Me? Hell no. I can't even
No.
read most of the colors on it,
So-
so.
So, I mean, we can sit down with Derek and try to get it done.
So by next meeting, could we have, like, what we should vote on to propose to send them with the new revisions?
Do you really need to vote on it?
I don't know that you need to necessarily vote on it, but,
All I'm suggesting is if you don't have official action on it, and someone finds out later, they knew for the whole life they were in low density, and now they're in high density, they're gonna come back and say, who authorized the change? So it should really come back to council, authorized the change.
Well, what you do then is you vote to amend the agenda to include directing the manager, I suppose, or I guess it would be the manager to, prepare comments to the county regarding inaccuracies in the draft of the future land use plan.
and again, this is not a zoning map, this is a use
Use
map.
map,
And it's future,
Future.
potential land use.
okay.
Potential.
So it's not,
Doesn't align exactly with zone.
it doesn't. And so we know that we have changes that we need to make
Right.
on some of the zoning districts that we
Okay.
put in place. But we plan to wholesale change a lot of stuff anyway, but it should still work with the future land use setup that they have.
Can we still see it before you send it to the
You
county
sure you can see it?
next month?
Maybe.
Okay.
It depends on Derek. I'm not.
I'm gonna run it through AI first.
I'm not coloring it.
We have our own house in the color.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right.
I'm red-green colorblind, so I'll be happy to color it.
That's why-
Shades of gray.
So that's the comp plan. Any other comments on the comp plan?
No, you heard the ones before, we had the public meeting.
Yeah, just another comment. I know now when we do work for, federal government, we have to note on there if it's any of it's AI generated. So you may wanna go back and ask the county employees, if any work is generated with AI, is there a disclaimer placed on that work? And if not, why not?
That's a great point.
We can
And what
afford it.
requires that?
What's that?
Who's requiring that?
Federal government, like DOD and places like that. So if we supply something, it's, with any AI component, we have to put that on the report.
All right. Okay,
This the lands,
okay,
and you're hogging up the agenda tonight.
do my best. Well, I have a sidekick on this one.
Okay.
Dave and I did a walkthrough about 2 weeks ago, well, 2 weeks ago Saturday, of a good percentage of the property, of the main trails with, you had a
GPS tracker.
GPS tracker.
On my phone.
so we were going through.
What's the accuracy of that? Like 3 feet, 10 feet?
I think like 10 feet.
10 feet.
So
Close
he was-
enough for government work.
Yeah, so he was, you wanna explain what you know better.
Also, you're walking where it was
We
tracking,
would
yeah.
walk a trail,
yeah.
and then I would drop, you could
Drop it.
put points at any intersections with other trails. And the end game here is we wanna mark out all the trails. And I wanna provide that to county, to our GIS person at the DES, so we can have names for the trails and be able to produce a map that we can share with the fire companies that might have to go up there and fight brush fires.
Are the trails gonna be named like Warren Trail 1 and Dave Trail 2?
Well, we're gonna, Bob May.
No, I don't want
Bob
any,
May.
I don't want any real.
Bob Trail.
I'll just go downhill off of my trail.
Yeah, and you were assessing it as to how accessible it is
And-
for the
yeah,
fire.
And the.
But he wouldn't have needed you if he had his own upgraded phone, rather than that flip phone he
Well,
uses.
that and the fact that I wanted to go up there and assess for access for the
Yeah.
fire department, the access is excellent. There's really no issue getting any of the brush equipment up there, brush trucks, you know, the
Yeah.
ATVs will have no problem getting up there, Jeeps. You know.
Yeah, and one of the things I had mentioned to Mark back, about a month or so ago, was we have.
Mark who?
Mark Crop, one of the guys that rides
Right.
Okay.
dirt bikes up there.
He, we've got a main trail that runs up the Goulden hillside, that hot toward, Mount Penn side. And, then there's another trail that comes down on the other side, but we didn't have a link between those two. Back, at
Right.
the back of the property. So he has cut a link through and marked it, and he's been clearing that up.
Yeah.
While we were walking that trail coming back down, this is where we found this across a trail. So
I took
Dave,
a picture of it.
Dave took a picture of it and said, gee, maybe I'll have the fire company guys come and clear this
Yeah.
out. I was walking up there about, 4 or 5 days ago, and now it looks like that.
Outstanding.
And I didn't ask them, I didn't bring it to their attention,
Oh, these are the trail guys.
Yeah.
the trail guys.
They
Bikers,
saw
trail
it and took
bikers.
care of it.
Yeah, good.
So,
Yeah.
just,
The program's
just to
working.
give you feedback about it and
It's
everything.
working. Their team
It's-
is working.
They're doing it. And he says he's got close to, he went around and took pictures of trees that had been down where they cut openings. I got like 9 or 10 of them in my cell phone, I showed you. But he counted like 47 or 48 of those trees across the trails that they've cut in the past number of years. They have come down, blocked it, they opened it wide enough for a brush truck to get through it.
So in retrospect, next time, would you take a chainsaw with you too?
Yeah. Yeah, this first one was a recon.
Recon.
Is there any type of citizenship award or anything you wanna give to this person?
Don't give them bigger heads, come on, Mayor, please.
Well, you know what I mean.
I mean,
They're
they
doing
do a
it
lot of
right.
effort.
Yeah,
No, I mean,
and it's
I have no
nice that
problem.
they're
Wait a second.
dedicated.
They're allowed to ride a motorized
Okay,
vehicle
so
up in
Yeah,
our
yeah,
wooded
they're-
lands
they're
in
dedicated.
exchange for this.
Yeah.
So they don't get anything other than that.
Okay.
they,
Next they'll be wanting,
I give them a thank
taxes off, property taxes.
I send them a thank you. When I saw this, I sent them a thank you.
Good.
So, it's.
All right, great.
Yeah. So
Good job.
I verified we really don't need a D2 or D3.
Yeah,
Are we on D1? We get D1.
yeah, okay. And also, just 2 days ago, I was hiking, looking up by where at the top of Schwarzwald Hill, where the stanchion was for the power lines, they took those down.
Right.
I went up there to see what it looks like. Well, there is like a 25-foot wide road that they put in
Yeah.
that goes all the way back, which we didn't put in there. We ought to have mapped in there.
Yeah,
It's a-
we
it's a
can
good
go back
fire
up and
break.
finish it.
It's,
Do you wanna go up there with our handheld and see if you can locate that road he's talking about? So we can generate the Warren and Dave trails and all that?
I'm assuming that's closer to Church Lane.
oh yeah, that's going up to Church Lane and then, but,
So I could possibly walk that lane, like straight through the woods and find that road and just follow.
yeah, you'd have to go over the top and then down.
Oh, so I can go down the
It's
other side.
down, it's on the other side of the peak,
Okay,
a little bit.
I'll bring a bottle of water.
Take the
Yeah.
floor.
And while I was there
Yeah,
also,
chainsaw.
there was another tree stand that isn't marked, isn't tagged, and definitely on our property.
Do you have the capability of taking a phone that has GPS capability to be able to pinpoint those? Because
Yeah,
otherwise I have to go with you directly to these locations.
Yeah,
If you could just pin them on like a
Yeah,
GPS map, then I can find them.
I basically did that,
Okay. Whenever you send me those coordinates, then I can
yeah,
go to them.
yeah. I don't know how accurate my phone was at that point
we appreciate your efforts into the
And then we
new
got
world.
the other two, which are very close to Adams Street. I mean, that's,
Yeah, right, back off our area there,
Yeah.
the staging area.
which is, they're a simple walk to go over there, I can show you.
Those ones I'm not worried about, like that one.
Yeah, this one's difficult.
Love
Now, the
those.
question is, do we just tag this thing and just let them know for next year, or just take it down?
See if it's up there, you know, if it's reachable, take it out.
Okay.
You know.
Otherwise, I'll leave a door tag on.
Yeah. Anything else on Municipal Labs?
Next Saturday,
Yes, yes, my walk is, on the 19th.
or hike, I should say.
Recreation
Egg hunt
on the 18th.
on the 18th, starts promptly at 0900.
And done at 09:10.
Well, usually even before that.
It's those older kids that have a hard time.
Planning Commission, not this month, but perhaps next month, and you want notice out to all the members for the,
For
the
May,
flood-
we
floodplain?
will have a meeting in May.
zoning hearing board, nothing?
Nothing.
General comments, public comments, anything? All public meetings held in St. Lawrence Borough Municipal Building. Zoning hearing board meetings, if so, would also be here. Changes to office hours of borough offices closed on Friday, April 18th. Also for general comments, we have an invite here from the county of Berks, letting two people ride the Colebrookdale train, where they're having their monthly, not monthly, but the breakfast meeting with the commissioners. So it's on May, I had this already figured out. May 30th at 8:30 a.m. If anybody wants to go, I may sign up and go.
It was, I went last year, it was very nice.
There's 2 people that
Only
are
two
allowed to
tickets.
attend, 2
Yeah.
tickets.
You have to rock, paper, scissors.
All you guys ate the lobster and steak last month, so you guys going for another free meal?
You're welcome to it. I've been to a number of those breakfasts.
I know. So-
I'll be working.
Yeah, I'll be at work too.
Maybe I'll go with you.
Oh, no.
I'll stay quiet.
I'll have to wear my mask. Okay, do you all want to go into executive session to talk about our employee handbook, or do you want to schedule a separate meeting for that?
Whatever the group want to do.
I think it'd probably be worth it to do a separate.
We want the guys pick a date? April, still in April, before the May meeting?
I'd be available Wednesday the 16th, Thursday the 17th.
Anybody else have any conflicts on the 16th?
I cannot do the 16th.
Yeah, 16th is.
Yeah.
No good, 17th then?
17th is
I
good.
can do the 17th.
17th going once, going twice? Let's schedule a public meeting on the 17th, it'll be executive session?
Greg,
No, I can.
Oh, you can't do it, then what other days do you have?
21st or 22nd?
Either of those are fine.
I can't have zoning hearings that night, because both nights in Kutztown.
And the other dates in April?
25th,
So Friday,
Friday, or Wednesday the 30th?
30th, yeah, 30th would work.
I'll just come right out and say that I'm leaving at the end of April through the middle of May for California, so.
You're coming back?
I don't know if you guys handle this before I get back or not. No, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm out.
30th, you be okay on 30th?
No, I'm gone,
Oh, okay, I got you.
yeah, I'm gone.
Suggestions?
Saturday lunch.
I'm off the 19th.
Saturday.
That's Saturday.
That's Lauren's hike.
We discuss it in.
No, that's
Yeah.
no more.
Yeah.
That's done.
You can walk and talk.
Well, that's a couple
Not
hours.
in
no more.
executive
That's done by
session.
noon.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do it, but I mean, time frame are you talking about?
And if you're gonna be finished by noon, 1,300?
We're done by noon? I could be done by noon.
What day?
No, they're gonna be,
They're
because
done.
Wise wants to come at 1 o'clock now.
You wanna do Saturday at 1 o'clock now?
That's,
Well,
right,
yeah,
That
I
won't
won't
be
be back.
difficult, that's.
but you've got a problem.
Yeah,
I won't be
all right.
back from the airport till maybe like 1:30.
Make it 3.
I know, things get booked up, I know you're all looking at me, like, I can happily, like, let you guys handle it. I feel bad because I do have a lot between.
He packed a lot of stuff in before he goes to California.
We wanted to give you the opportunity to begin on some of the
And
stuff.
I want to, so I don't, like I said, I don't wanna work up, but I already know what.
How
Right.
long does the council think that it's
Yeah,
gonna take? Is it a 2 hours?
I hope not.
An
I just
hour?
think maybe an hour.
What about before the meeting? Can enough people attend before the meeting?
Next May, I mean, for the May meeting,
Yeah.
you wanna come an hour early next meeting?
I think,
See if we're-
You won't be
You're
back.
already committed to the meeting.
yeah, I think it's a good
Okay.
idea, just.
He's gonna have a plane from California.
Yeah, you're in.
Well, yeah,
And I'll be at work until 1900.
If Mike's still not here, we might even have a quorum issue.
Oh, we could possibly, yes.
What about June? Just trying to get, fit in.
Amanda, we wanna dump this in you and we'll try to figure it out. It doesn't sound like it's gonna work in April, so you wanna try to figure something, in May, after our May meeting?
I say it might be moving May's meeting anyway.
Yeah, if
To
we
I mean, it
don't-
doesn't matter,
the
it's
15th?
literally, it's up to you guys.
15th of April?
No, the 15th of May.
To May.
Yeah.
All right?
I can do an hour early on the 15th of May, because I'm off.
Very creepily, that does work, so maybe we should.
Why are we moving the meeting in May?
Yeah, there already might be a quorum issue, Dave might.
Dave's working on the 8th, are you working
I
on
work
the
the 8th, yes.
Yeah, you're definitely not gonna be here, right, on the 8th?
Nope, I'll be on the plane.
So it sounds like we're moving our meeting to the 15th, and we're gonna start an hour earlier, and it's the executive session.
On the 15th.
Yeah,
But
or do
I can't make the
we, executive session?
7:30,
No.
I can't make the I don't need to be here.
You don't need to be here for that.
We're definitely moving the meeting to May 15th, an executive session before.
Does that have to be by resolution tonight?
You have to advertise
It
it.
has to be, yeah, just authorization to advertise.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to change the May meeting.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes.
I'll make a motion to switch the May meeting from May 8th to May 15th, starting at 18:30 hours, it'll be 6:30 PM, to allow for an executive session.
Do you want the executive session to go until 7 o'clock? We'll just, 8 o'clock, and that way we'll actually change our time of our meeting till 8 o'clock?
We can do that.
That's fine.
I'll amend my motion to include that.
6:30 to 8.
Motion moved, is there a second?
Second.
Motion been moved and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion
I
passes.
don't think I have anything for the May meeting.
Just the honor results. You got an extra week now.
And May is when I put the report, so that's retarded.
Old business. We had the issue of Women's Club asking to use the facility. We tabled that. We'll move on. New business. Municipal breakfast on May 30th. I said I was going to probably go. Sounds like the mayor wants to go. So if anybody else wants to go, say so, because I can always float in or out. Borough egg hunt, we mentioned that. Weather permitting, street sweeping, we talked about that. Signs will be posted to move vehicles on specific streets, on all streets. Number 4 is a motion to adopt resolution 915-2025 to move forward with the PA small water and sewer grant.
So this came across my desk at the end of March. It's a small water, small sewer grant opportunity. It's up to $500,000, benefits small water communities, small sewer authorities. So I placed a quick quote out to Mr. Rehab for a lining project in some of our more prone areas.
Is it for sewer authorities only?
I'm sorry, sewer, just, anything that has a sewer. So I put a quote out to Mr. Rehabs that's lined some of our more prone areas up on the hillsides of Golden Hill and Jacksonwald, or Schwartzwald Hill. They sent me back a quote of $290,560.50 to line those pipes and those manholes. The borough will be responsible for 15% of the total cost of the project, and the other 85% will be picked up by the small water and small sewer grant.
Would this complete the final 33% where we
No.
will line everything?
No, we would still have probably another 20, probably one project left.
Would we wanna go ahead and ask for the amount greater than the 50,000 and knowing we'd only get funded for that?
I mean, the 500,000.
Yeah, 500,000?
So I don't know, can you make the resolution, so I don't know what the number is, so I didn't have any idea how much it was gonna cost.
So we wanna do as much linear feet to get up to the 500,000 is what I'm suggesting.
I know, I'm just not sure if we're allowed to just arbitrarily say any number, because the resolution specifically says how much the grant is.
Yeah, I would not, I don't believe you can.
Well, it's due April 30th, so you're stuck.
Okay, so this is the only council meeting you have
Gotcha.
until it's due.
Mm-hmm.
Could we do this? Authorize up to, applying up to $500,000 and see if Derek can get a quote.
Revised quote.
Revised quote.
I think you can do that.
So we can not put any number down on the resolution and sign it and change that after, that's my question.
Well, it would be, the resolution would be,
Up
we would
to.
authorize applying for the grant up to $500,000.
I would be comfortable doing
Do
that.
we have to, because the way they wanted the grant, they wanted it a specific number.
I understand that, but all I'm
He's
doing
gonna
is,
get a specific number.
he's gonna get a specific number, all we're doing is authorizing applying for a grant up to $500,000. The grant paperwork is gonna
No,
have
but
to.
the resolution has to be
Yeah, the resolution's
accurate.
Oh, the
specific to the
resolution,
number.
then if the rules are that it has to be a specific number, it has to be a specific.
Then we'll go with
Yes,
this.
we'll go with
Very,
this.
very
All right.
precise.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 9/15/2025 to apply for the EPA Small Water and Sewer Grant for the project totaling $290,560.50.
Second.
Motion been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Anything else? Any new business? Oh, no, motion, sorry. Motion before, we're pursuing a multimodal transportation fund grant to put sidewalks and street lighting in on North Prospect Street.
Now, my only question to this is, are we authorizing Pamela to, because there's gonna be required engineering in that. So that's where I just wanna make sure we're authorizing that.
That would be inherently in the motion, because if the grant calls for engineering services, it's already in there, so yes, you're authorizing it. You're authorizing all activities.
Only
related.
10%, right, I have to remember this, because I have 12 on my desk right now. The engineering is a maximum of 10% of the grant request. The contingency is 5% of the construction cost, and the matching is 15% of the total cost. So it's three different parameters for all the costs. When I do the construction cost estimate as the PD and I seal it, I put all those categories in. So you have the engineering, you have the construction contingency, and then you have the construction cost itself, and then the matching fund pops out from the total cost.
And only 15% of those total. Is the modal fund grant only 15%?
Guess what?
What?
0, I believe, this round. Yes. I just sent that to West Wayne Borough. They had a multimodal grant, I think 1 or 2 years ago. It's in the multimodal grant, it says between 2017 and such a year. But then at the last sentence says, this will apply to December 31st, 2025. So that any municipality, that's the caveat, municipality. There were some other things I think that,
Can we upgrade our traffic signals to include pedestrian or bicycle lights?
That'll be a part of that, but you can also do that in the green light code.
that's easier for the green light go.
I think the main focus of this grant in particular would be
This-
finishing
this part.
sidewalk here, redoing the traffic or the entrances to this building, and we would try to shoot for adding sidewalk down.
So the sidewalk to nowhere to the Exeter line.
Well, when to the Exeter line, but we would also try to add sidewalk down at the post office, because they're never gonna put it in. So the grant would be able to pick that up.
So there's several sites, you're doing it all the way down, okay, to the traffic signal at.
One St. Lawrence Avenue
And to the bridge,
yeah.
because then that would connect all of St. Lawrence Avenue to down
Right
here.
around the corner.
Yeah.
88 ramps,
They're already there, stay within that.
so no HOP, or an HOP.
We would probably require one along St. Lawrence Avenue.
You'll be up there to the fire.
Can we apply for an HOP when we're not the property owner?
That's a good question. PennDOT does it without, written consent from the property owner.
I don't know, that would be a general question, before I have to trump it.
No idea.
Put in for that linear footage and we'll see what happens.
To me, in my aspect of this, the multi-transportation grant, those are what, up to 2 million?
I think it was
It's three.
3. So there's a lot of money that's on the table. And I mean, we can go for a small section of Prospect Street here for sidewalk, but if we can go for the
No, I would
entirety of it.
I would take it away from the bridge,
Yeah.
around the corner,
And
out to
if they're gonna pick up,
the Exeter border.
if they're gonna pick up the tab for all that, because the post office is not gonna pay to put that in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were told when we pursued it 15 years ago that if we wanted to put it in, we could, but they weren't going to.
Do you wanna go on the other side of the street, put sidewalk on that also?
No.
On that side,
Yeah.
Prospect?
Yeah.
That, I think, might have some land issues, because
Yeah,
there
because
is,
of the topography.
Yeah.
Do you wanna try to get it on the Turkey Hill property?
just on Prospect Street?
No, so when you turn off Prospect Street across the street, now the only missing piece of sidewalk all the way up to
Is the piece of.
Perkiomen Avenue is across Turkey Hill. So do you wanna go try to say, include that on your drawing? As part of the Prospect Street?
I'm not sure how those drawings would
If
be.
you go down the corner to the bridge, can't we go up the corner to the other existing sidewalk?
We could.
In front of Goodwill?
There would be no limits if we're allowed to do that with
Well,
the
the problem is
HOP.
this grant is due May 31st, so we're really.
Well, it's only linear footage, right? You just have to, you have to show them a drawing or something?
Not sure. I think it could be just location.
Does council only want from the bridge, turn the corner, go out in front of our building, or do you wanna try to grab the piece of Turkey Hill too? That's really the difference.
It's actually, no,
It's
it's
all
the
part of
piece,
this.
There's a green
Little patch.
the sidewalk,
It might be
Goodwill.
30 feet. Yeah, it's not much.
Well,
If we can get it.
Because the hill juts out.
if Derek can get the linear foot measurements for everything that the council wants, then I'll back into a construction cost estimate. But
So you're not connected
just know that the engineering.
No, we would connect it to Goodwill.
But there's a hill there, there's
But
a,
it's all they.
You'd have to regrade and do a retaining wall.
that's what we got the grant.
Is that grants there? Is that grants there? I mean-
We'd have to get their permission anyway,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
Turkey Hill could say no, just like the post office can say no.
But it's in the public right of way.
So that's the thing, I don't know if they can say no, because that'd be a forced improvement for transportation. And technically, the right of way exists there for PennDOT. So it's not like we're adding a right of way and asking for consent, it's already there.
Yeah, we're not condemning private trees there.
So do you wanna include
I
that
think
30
yeah, if we can get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
We made Todd Michael put in sidewalk.
Yeah, but he's a, you know, he's a business property owner, that's right.
Yeah,
But we gave him time to put it in too.
Yeah.
We gave him like 2 years to put it in.
So I believe that would be put on.
So is Turkey Hill, and I was at the meeting,
But
and
Turkey Hill has to do something to their property before we can force a sidewalk.
Change in use
And they wanted to put
oh,
more,
that's.
they wanted to
okay.
put more gas dispensers in, and then when they heard about the sidewalk, it seemed that idea seemed to poof,
Yeah,
go away.
Anytime someone does a large
Gotcha.
land improvement, so real estate, or the right real estate down there, across from Lane's property next to Randy Autobody is currently doing that right now.
Mhm, okay.
So is council in agreement to go for the Turkey Hill gap and what we described from the bridge around
Yeah, if we can do it, I
post
think
office?
that's
Yeah.
good for the
Yeah.
community.
All right, I'll make the motion, move forward pursuing a multimodal transportation fund grant to put sidewalk street lighting in on North Prospect from the township.
Before you get too
No
far in that
street
motion.
light, no street light.
No street lights.
Okay, all right, I'll, you know, because that's what it says.
My one other thing I wanna throw in here, to Pamela, with your experience in the multimodal, does the state look favorably upon communities that put in like the most effort towards the multimodal part?
Yes.
So for instance, if we put bike lanes on Prospect, I'm not sure if that requires a survey or a study, since we're on a time crunch.
They want joint transportation, so pedestrian with bike is always a win.
But that could be nothing more than us striping off a bike
That's
lane.
okay.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah,
okay.
yeah, because the width.
So that's the entire intent then.
Yes, but we would be,
And the signs, you know. should
Yeah.
be
Yes,
like a
okay,
little bit.
then I'll, sorry, so I'll make a motion to move forward pursuing a multimodal transportation fund grant, put sidewalks and designate bike lane on North Prospect from the township line to St. Lawrence Avenue, around the corner, connect to the bridge over the Antietam Creek on St. Lawrence Avenue, and also on the other side of Prospect, the small section at the Turkey Hill property to connect to the sidewalk, existing sidewalk on the Goodwill property.
Is there a second?
Second.
One
question.
Yeah.
Did I hear you say there's zero cost on part of the borough? I heard a lot of numbers, so it is zero.
What Derek was saying is 15%, but the current guideline has that little less since this.
That's what I thought I heard you say that.
This provision is good till.
There's administrative costs.
Yeah,
No, but we're saying
There's
the
no
match,
code,
the
yeah.
match.
There's no copay or something like that.
Match, but
Or
if you
deductible.
wanna put in match to make it more palatable to them, you have that right as well. But so let's come up with the cost and we'll see it.
Yeah.
But it's gotta be under, and I have to look at it again. I thought that the grant was at max of 500, I thought the total project cost was max of 500.
We're gonna have a bike
Are you-
lane
are you
that goes
mixing up
from the
the small
bridge
water?
around the corner.
The
to
small
end of
water
our
has-
property.
I just said the bike
Yeah,
lane.
max
Would probably be just on
of
Prospect.
So
Yeah.
this one is, I think, but we're not even getting to 339.
yeah.
Because I don't know that we can designate a bike lane on a state road anyway.
No, I thought,
Prospect would probably be the only bike lane.
It's just from the corner here.
Yeah. To Exeter, to get to the bar quicker,
To get to the bar, we'll put a bike lane.
or bike Uber. Motion's been moved and seconded to apply for the multi-mobile grant. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed,